All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining alongside of Jonathan Stewart. My name is Derek Guzman. We'll get going in just about a minute here. Please be patient. I'm going to work through everybody's attendance. You all have started muted. Please stay that way. I'm going to ask two things of you guys. One, if your username is not your full first and last name, please try to change your username first. If you're struggling changing your username, you can just type your full name in the chat. I want to make sure everybody gets their PDR credit. Let's see if I have any other notes here. As far as questions, we are going to be doing questions typed into the chat as well. Jeff, our presenter today, who I will give a proper introduction here, he likes real-time questions, but to keep everybody muted and to keep it easy, type them in the chat. I will read them out in as timely a manner as I can. I will continue to try to be letting people in throughout the session, so I may black out my screen and just start taking attendance. So again, looks like guys are doing a good job changing their usernames. Other than that, we're going to get going here. So thank you, everybody. This is session 1 of the 2026 WPGA Winter Education Series. We thought it would be really cool if our first presenter was Jeff Ellingson, our new career consultant. Jeff has not been in the position long, but I do know he's very passionate about making sure that our section, along with the Illinois section, is all, getting our dream jobs and making sure we're in the best possible position to continue elevating our careers. We've got Jeff for 1 hour. We are very happy that he's with us. Jeff, if that was a decent enough introduction, I'm gonna go quiet here and I'm gonna start doing attendance.
Yeah, sounds great. I appreciate that, Derek and Jonathan. And start off by thanking everybody, the deployment committee and the board of directors and Joe Stadler and his staff for allowing me to do this. And on a personal level, to be honest, I'm not sure I'm prepared to do this right now. My 18-year-old son maybe made a bad choice this morning and passed the school bus on the way to school, and had the police stop by our house and all of those things. Nobody was hurt, but he is very, very upset with himself, and I'm I'm trying to be sympathetic as well as you can be, and so I'm maybe not in the best headspace right now, but as I told him, he's, everybody makes bad choices. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. And, that he's still a good person. Just, we all have those moments, and, this is one of those for him. And, hopefully he learns from it and grows from it, as we all do. But as Derek said, I'm Jeff Ellingson. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in the section for 24 years. I've been a PGA member almost 20. I think March 6th is my official anniversary where I'll be a member for 20 years, which is amazing. On that slide right there is my world. My wife, Lee, who I've been married to for 27 years. We've been dating for almost 35, long time. Got 3 kids. Quentin, that was his graduation a year and a half ago. He's a sophomore at Whitewater. Jackson, who had the little bus incident this morning, he's a senior, plans to go to Platteville in the fall, which is great, nice and close. And then my daughter, Addie, she's 13, loves volleyball and gymnastics. And those of you that know me know that family is super important, and that's where I always start. But this section has meant the world to me since becoming a golf professional in 2001, being an assistant under Todd King, who's a great golf professional, and being at 4 or 5 other clubs besides that. As a head pro and a GM, I've been very, very lucky to be in Wisconsin and in the Madison area, especially. I've also served on the board of directors for the Wisconsin PGA. I was the president during the 2021 Ryder Cup, and currently I'm the vice president of the Wisconsin PGA Junior Foundation. Volunteering and giving back has always been important to me, and always will. And I'm just lucky that I get to serve the members of Wisconsin and Illinois in a way that not many people do. So to be a career consultant is amazing. I've only been doing it for 2.5 months, and I've learned a ton. I know that I have a lot more to learn, but I'm going to start with something that we're really excited about rolling out. You should have received an email this morning. It's career range sessions that we're going to do down at the PGA show. If you're going to the PGA show, please take 30 minutes and do one of these career range sessions. It's kind of a mock interview in a way. They're going to be 30 minutes long. It's a one-on-one conversation with a career consultant, with either me or one of my 24 colleagues. We're going to focus on interview readiness, career positioning, professional clarity. I'm not trying to say this to be mean, but I've been a part of plenty of interviews already, whether through executive search or whether just through, helping employers. And there's a lot of people that need help with interviews. If you have time, please make sure you sign up. This is just like practicing for a tournament. You wouldn't go into a tournament cold without some practice. And if you're thinking about, or even if you're not thinking about, if you haven't interviewed in a while, I think it would really benefit you just to go through it and get some feedback about it. You don't want to walk into any kind of career opportunity unprepared. And I think everybody thinks that they're safe and maybe feel confident that you're going to be where you are forever. But some of those best opportunities come around and they're unplanned. And, if you're not ready for it, that opportunity might slip through your fingers. So the QR code on there, if you want to scan that, it'll take you right to the registration page. You can also go to the email that I sent out this morning. If neither of those work, you can contact me and I will resend it to you. But we're doing it January 21st through the 23rd at the PGA show. It's $0 to participate. So there really isn't, outside of not being there. If you're not going, then it's going to be a little harder. But outside of not being there, there really isn't a reason to not do it. So the goal of a career consultant, the goal for me is to help enhance the personal and professional lives of all of the members in Wisconsin and Illinois, and actually anywhere around the country, to be honest. I also help employers, and I do that through building trusting relationships and supporting the goals and celebrating the achievements of everyone. I am and have been since starting my career in golf dedicated to helping others. It's always been very, very important to me. Service to others is one of my guiding principles. And there's something very special in supporting and encouraging others for me. I feel very lucky that the goals of a career consultant match my own personal goals. And I want you to use me as a resource to help you in whatever way that I can. I'm going to do my best to make a positive difference in your life. And, there's a lot of ways that I can potentially do that. I'm going to go backwards just a minute. The QR code that's on this slide is for the comp survey. If you have not done the comp survey in a while, if you've never done it, please go through and do it. It only takes a couple of minutes. It's really good information for me that I can help use to help other PGA members and employers with compensation results. It is all confidential. None of it is shared with it. None of the personal information is shared. It's all aggregated. So, don't feel like your individual information is going to be shared. But it is, without updated information, it doesn't become as relevant. And if the information that I give on compensation isn't as relevant, it is not going to be able to help you get more compensation for your position. This list is a pretty good representation of what I do day in and day out. Career planning, coaching, resume review, interviewing, negotiating, networking, compensation, education. The three things that I've focused most of my attention on, or that my attention has been focused on in my first 2.5 months, has definitely been compensation reports, resume review, and career planning. And compensation reports are the number one thing that I do, whether it's for individuals or whether it's for employers. I've done a lot of compensation reports for people. There's two different kinds of compensation reports that I can do. One is a report per section. So I can do a report that is specific to Wisconsin or specific to Illinois or Indiana or whatever section it is that you'd be interested in. And the other one is a peer report, and I'll touch on that in just a little bit. At one time, you could run these reports by yourself. And I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago, the PGA decided that they all needed to come from our career services team. So it's not something that you can do on your own, but it is something that I'm very happy to help you with. Again, these reports are all confidential. Your individual responses are private. They're not shared with anyone at any time. And we take that confidentiality very, very seriously. Whether it's a report per section or a report or a peer report, I can run it for any classification. A1 and A8 have the most responses. A14 is one that maybe doesn't have as many, but I can run reports for any classification that you would like. Both reports will have a base salary as well as total compensation. And it'll also have some breakdowns for lesson income, bonus income, and other income. So other income might be commissions from sales or different things like that. The easiest report for me to run is per section. And this report includes data from each professional in a given section that has filled out the compensation survey. So the one that's on the screen now is dedicated for A1s in the Wisconsin section. You can see that there's a base pay and a total comp. You can see underneath of the base pay, there's 49 in parentheses. There are 49 professionals in the Wisconsin section that filled it out that are at daily fee facilities. And on the private side, there were 40. There's still some room to grow there. There's still some professionals that I think could fill it out and could help us out, make sure that these are a little bit more accurate. But, you can see on the screen kind of the top 10%, top 20%, average, and bottom 25%. And then you can also see the lesson, bonus, and other. These are things that, I'm happy to prepare for you. If you wanted one for a A8, if you wanted one for an A13, if you wanted one for an A4, if you wanted one for an A1, not under an A4, there's a lot of different ways that I can go about preparing these reports for you. And I'm happy to do that. Again, if it's per section, it's relatively easy to do. I can usually do it in a couple of days. The other report that I can do is called a peer report. And that should be on your screen now. So this is a report that was asked Ryan Stray asked me to do it as a compensation, as a custom compensation report from Old Hickory. And so if I scroll down here, you can see the list of clubs that he gave me to compare to that he felt were comparable to Old Hickory. And so what happens is, you just need to send me a list of approximately 20 facilities. It can be more. It really can't be less. I need at least 6 facilities or professionals at those facilities to have filled it out before I can do a report. Otherwise, it'll come back as incomplete. Out of these 20 facilities, there happened to be 12 that had professionals that had filled out the compensation report. I don't know which 12. I can't pass on which 12 had done it. What happens is I give this list of facilities to our data center. They are the ones that plug in the facility themselves. They're the ones who aggregate all of the information and give me all of the averages. They do not share with me who filled it out and who didn't. So, I just know that 12 of these 20 facilities filled it out. And again, all of that information from individual people is kept confidential. And then it spits out the numbers. Again, top 10%, 15, 20, average, median, average lesson income, bonus income, commissions, and then total compensation. So, and then what I do is I will take and I will send this report. I'll give it to Ryan, obviously, because he's the one that asked for it. But then I will also send it to all of the facilities that he thought were comparable, because I feel like they will find the information valuable as well. And, as an example, I sent it to, one of the professionals on this list, and he responded to me and said, "Hey, any chance that you can send this to my owner? Any chance you can send this to the president of my board? All I need is an email." And I sent it off to them and said, your facility was used in a peer review compensation profile, and I wanted you to make sure you had the information. What they do with that information after that is hopefully that I think that professional probably reached out to me because he was making less than what was shown on the report, and hopefully they can go back to the negotiation table and work through a little bit more fair compensation. Keep in mind that employers can ask for these types of reports as well. So it's not just something that I prepare for golf professionals. It's something that I prepare for employers. And again, the more information that I have, the more people that can go in and fill out the compensation survey, the more relevant the numbers are, the more likely they are to be able to help you. And so, I would again ask you, if you have never done it, please make sure scan this QR code and go in and fill it out. It only takes a few minutes. Of course, compensation surveys are only one way to show your value at a facility. In terms of advice on best practices for asking for greater compensation, I would recommend you consider, any upside or leverage you have for any or all of the following aspects of the work at your club or or at your facility. Make sure you're sharing relevant and recent reports with your employers. One report is not sufficient. You can't just show them a compensation report and expect to get a raise. You need to show them maybe a revenue and expenses compared to budget report, merchandise sold, a labor report, rounds played report, an outing report, pace of play report, staff retention. Any kind of report that can show a metric that shows your value to your employer would be a valuable tool to use. Make sure that you're reviewing your job description. Has your job description changed? Or has it not kept up with the actual role and responsibilities? We as golf professionals are great at just taking on other tasks, right? Something needs to be done. And what do? we do it. That's how we've been trained. That's part of our culture. That's part of our DNA. When something needs to be done, we just take care of it. Unfortunately, that means that sometimes our job description is out of date. Make sure that your job description matches the actual roles and responsibilities that you have. Go through and write down all of the things that you do day to day, week in, week out, month after month, to make sure that your employer knows all of the great things that you're taking care of. As an example, sorry, that's a lot of talking. As an example, I had a professional reach out to me earlier this year, and he'd been at his club for quite a while, and felt like he was underappreciated by his board. And so I went and met with him and his board, and helped discuss all of the things that he does. And I don't think the board realized all of the things that he took care of, because he never talked about it. He never, and it's not about bragging. It's about just making sure that your employer remembers what you're taking care of. Again, we all as PGA professionals do a great job of, just doing whatever needs to be done. But, that there also needs to be something on the backside for us to make up for that. Customer and member feedback. Can you compare your customers and members' perception versus prior years? Keep in mind that this doesn't have to be a massive undertaking. You can send a short email after a member event, after a group lesson, after a league season, after a club fitting, and just ask for feedback about their experience, and then use all of those little feedbacks from your members, from your customers, when it comes to review time. Make sure that you're collecting all of those. Gather the feedback, put it into a folder, save it for when it's time. Team collaborate, easy for me to say, collaboration. Your leadership. Are you providing leadership to the team? Is your leadership positively impacting the club? Is it positively impacting your facility, especially versus prior years? If you've only been there for a couple of years, this would be really important for you to be able to show. If you've been there for a long time, it's still important, but maybe a little bit harder for you to show, because more than likely, if you've been there for a few years, you've been a great leader, and it's hard to maybe improve on all of the things that you've already done. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still try to make sure that you are emphasizing how important your leadership is. What's the replacement cost if you leave? Maybe you're not being attracted away, but there's still a replacement cost if you were to go elsewhere. And according to SHRM, the typical payback is 6 to 9 months of salary plus the new leader's compensation. So there is a replacement value, or there is a replacement cost for if you're going to leave. And you should make sure that that's a part of the conversation as well. Maybe you don't want to go anywhere, but that might be the only way that you can leverage a little bit of yourself to make more compensation.
Jeff, just going to chime in. Looks like you are still on, your screen is still on the report for Old Hickory. Not sure if it was meant to stay there, but it's been there for a bit. There we go. All right, back to mute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's I guess you didn't. I guess we didn't miss much. Just one slide. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. As I get used to sharing and which file and all those kinds of things, I appreciate you keeping me on track. And then where do you stand amongst your peers in these areas? Golf operation proficiency, capacity to recruit a quality team, reputation you have with your peers, reputation that your club has within the market, and make sure that you're recording all of all of those wins. And then based on all of this information, where do you put yourself when it comes to this compensation profile? If you and where does your board or where does your owner put you? If you are average, this is, you would expect the average pay. But if your employer, and if you think you're in the top 25%, this should be your pay. And this is what you should fight for. This is what you deserve. And so those maybe are hard conversations, but those are conversations that you should certainly have to make sure that you are staying where you need to for compensation. While you're going through these reflective practices, what are you really proud of? What did you accomplish in the last year? And what did you accomplish in the last 3 years? What are you looking forward to accomplishing in the next year? All of those things should be self-assessed, maybe before you even sit down with your employer, maybe even before you sit down with whoever it is that you need to discuss your job with. And some of these things aren't about a job title. Work and life are interconnected, and it's hard to separate them sometimes. It should include what you want out of life, both personally and professionally. And it all should be tied back to your values. Technical skills are important. Communication skills are important. Leadership, time management. Whatever you feel like is important for you to accomplish 1 year from now are things that you should write down. Make sure you own your values. Nobody else can do this for you. You're unique, and your values will be unique to you. Your early career experiences will help shape your values and help you grow as a person, but they are going to change because you're going to have life experiences. And don't be afraid to reevaluate. Make sure you have a plan or have multiple plans, as not everything is going to go as you think it should. And make sure you share your plan with your mentors, whether that's somebody that you work with currently or whether that's somebody that you worked with in the past, whether that's a career consultant, whether that's, a therapist that you might see, whoever it is that those people you consider your mentors, make sure you share your plan with those mentors. Here's a list of some of the values that you might have. Two important things to remember here. Again, your values may change over time, and you need to stay in tune with those changes. And if your current position doesn't match your current values, then maybe you and I should talk. When this happens, when your values don't meet with your current position, you feel like there's no work-life balance. And I'm not a huge fan of the work-life balance word because I don't think it means what a lot of people think it means. To me, it just means that your position and your values are in tune. If your values and your position are in tune, 60 hours doesn't seem like much. If you enjoy your work, if you really enjoy what you're doing, the amount of hours really doesn't affect you. But if you don't like what you're doing, or if it doesn't have value, it can feel like a real grind. I'll share the values that I feel like were important to me when I was an assistant. Advancement was important. I wanted to influence people. I wanted to get recognized. I wanted a challenge. And I've always, service to others has always been important to me. Now, 20 years later, things have changed for me. Now I want meaningful work. I want knowledge. I want to have knowledge, and I want to do research. I want that work-life balance. I want the value I have to align with what it is that I'm doing. I want a challenge. and service to others. That's still really, really important to me, and probably the foundation of everything else for me. And I feel really lucky that I found a role that, as a career consultant, that perfectly aligns with what it is that I want. I think it's important, as you look at this list, to remember that there isn't a wrong answer here. Everybody's going to have a different 5, 6, 7. I can't believe I said 6, 7. Sorry. 5 or 6 things that matter more to them. And there isn't a wrong answer, and it's going to depend on what point of life you're in, and your experiences and what you see as your future. There isn't a wrong answer. Just make sure that you remember that. Changing gears. I'd had some questions. I've had a lot of questions, actually, about ExecuSearch. And ExecuSearch is something that I've spent quite a bit of time on. And I wanted to kind of go over, my experience in the ExecuSearch, and maybe just give a little education about it. So ExecuSearch, there's 2 different levels. There's an advanced search, which includes all of the items that are listed on the screen. I don't think I need to read them all, but basically, an ExecuSearch is an advanced level of search that the PGA helps an employer with. So we have PGA.org, which employers can just go on and post a job. Advanced search is one level above that. So we're going to create a specific website for them. We're going to help targeted outreach. We're going to help with applications. We're going to create a Google site. We're going to post it on LinkedIn. We're going to post it on the CMAA. We're going to have candidate communication, so anybody can call me to talk about the job. And then once all of those things are done, then the employer is in charge of all the interviews, all the negotiations, and then ultimately the hiring. And the second level is called ExecuSearch, or is called an executive search. An executive search includes all of the things from an advanced search, but it also includes all of the interviewing, all of the negotiations if they want. So it's a little bit higher level service. It also includes a 2-year guarantee. So if the person isn't there for 2 years, then we redo the search for free. It also has, some pretty neat things like a behavioral assessment. So basically what happens is the hiring committee will take a behavioral assessment that will help spit out some of the things that are most important to the committee. And then each candidate, once we get down to like 8 or 10 candidates, will take that same behavioral assessment, and it will see which candidates match what the committee thought was important. It doesn't mean that that's who's going to be hired, is the person that matches. But it's just another way to help gauge, fits and culture and things like that are so important. I think that on the executive search side, it's been real. I've been a part of 5 of them, in some way or another, and each one of them is a little bit different. Each employer has, had a different level of involvement. I've been involved with one of them where, we basically did everything from the recruiting to the initial interview to the virtual interview to the in-person interview. They ultimately were the ones that hired. And then, we had one where it was the other way, where, we just kind of sat in the back and they did all of the interviewing, and they did the hiring. Not quite sure why they hired us to do that, since they were the ones that wanted to take it over. But I think that's one of the nice things about the executive search is, it can be whatever the employer wants it to be. And so, it's customizable to whatever works for that employer. And every employer is going to be a little different. Along those lines, from that's from an employer view. From an applicant's, let's see how to say that better. From your view, if you're applying for a job that's an executive search job, I'll just go over kind of what the process is, and in some respects, it's not a lot different in that you're still going to apply through a website. So it's maybe not pga.org. It's through the website that we create for that specific facility. But you're still going to apply. And what happens is then we go through, we rank all of the candidates, 1, 2, or 3. 1 being, maybe they're not quite ready for an interview. 2 being, maybe they're ready for an interview. And 3 being, this would be an excellent candidate. And then we go through, and the 2s and the 3s, we determine which of those are going to get what we call a speed date. And the speed date is basically a 15-minute virtual interview. And so we have a preset list of questions with 5, 6 questions. Almost said it again. That we ask each candidate. We try to do those in 15-minute increments, and then they become, so we'll have 10 or 12 people do those speed dates. Each one is about 15 minutes, and then they become easier for the committee of the club to watch if they want to watch them. If they don't, then we take care of, determining who it is that makes the next step. But that's part of our process is we go through, we record the videos, we shorten them down to as short as they possibly can be. And then they all go as links to each of the committee members so they can watch those individual speed dates. From there, those 10 or 12 typically would get reduced to maybe 8 that we would do a virtual interview for. So a virtual interview might be an hour and 15 minutes. It's 5 or 6 questions that are preset, and then, maybe 5 or 6 questions off of the answers that each candidate might give. And then after that would be in person, and we try to do between 2 and 4 people for in-person interviews. Any more than 4 kind of becomes a little bit cumbersome. And then from there, it's up to the hiring committee as to whether, they need a 4th interview or whether that final in-person interview is enough. So far that final interview has been enough. This didn't happen in Wisconsin or Illinois, but it happened to one of my teammates, or a couple different stories actually, which it's just unbelievable some of the stuff that you hear. But there was a hiring committee. There were 3 people that were granted an in-person interview. The committee went through and ranked 1, 2, 3. Candidate number 1 was a clear number 1 from everybody on the committee, and ultimately they ended up hiring the person that they all ranked number 3. And the reason is there were some people at the club who started to call the committee and really started to try to campaign for that one person who was number 3. And so the committee went from the person that was first to the person that was third and ended up hiring the third person, which, it just seems odd, but, you just never know. The other one that I've been told that happens not often, but often enough is, that the candidate that they think is number 1, actually doesn't take the job, for whatever reason. And then, you go to candidate 2 and candidate 3, and you hope that they that they don't realize that they were number 2 to begin with, because that would feel kind of bad. But my teammates continue to tell me to don't bet on who you think is going to be hired, because it probably isn't the person that you think. So it's been an interesting process to go through, and been very, I continue to learn a lot, and have a lot of respect for the process, because it is very, very in depth. We also had, in the time that I've been here, we have had somebody leave within the 2-year guarantee, and so we had to reopen it and redo it. And so it does happen that people, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out, and so that's why that 2-year placement guarantee is in there for the executive search. It's not for the advanced, but it is for the executive. So I was told to maybe not touch on resumes. Resumes have been maybe over talked about over the course of these virtual seminars. And again, I'll go back to what I said earlier, and this isn't to try to be mean, but I think that everybody needs help on their cover letter and their resume. I've seen a ton of them already, and they almost all need some work. And so, to me, it's kind of like, your cover letter and your resume is kind of like putting or a short game. When somebody comes to you for a lesson and they want to get better, the number one thing that you could help them with is their short game, right? Almost every person could get better by doing a lesson on short game. But the one thing that they want to work on is their driver. They don't want to work on their putter or their short game. And so cover letter, resume is, to me, kind of like this putter in the short game. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I do want to make sure that I touch on it a little bit, so that, again, so that I'm helping it put out as broad of a help as I can. And this is the perfect time to work on it. It's in the winter. It's, most of us, the facility is closed. I know some people are busy because they have simulators and virtual golf and ranges maybe that are open because the snow is gone. And I'm not trying to take anything away from that. But this is typically a little bit slower time of year. And so, working on your cover letter and your resume, now is the time to do it. Remember your cover letter should support your resume. Shouldn't be a copy of it. It should explain why you want to work there. Why are you a good fit for the position? It should convey how your past work experience has prepared you for this opportunity. What have you done in the past that would make you a great candidate for this position? What are the benefits of hiring you? Be careful, that you don't use too many I statements, and which can be tough, but you want to make sure that that you communicate your value without using the word I too much, and make sure that each cover letter is specific to the job you're applying for. Don't cut and paste. You can have kind of an outline of what you want to use, but the employer is going to put in their job description what's important to them. And your cover letter should make sure that you touch on the points that are in the job description. That's why it has to be prepared for each one. And this cover letter should be, should help bolster your resume. It should make them want to read your resume, because ultimately this cover letter is hopefully going to get them to read it. And at the end, make sure you thank them for reviewing your resume and ask for an interview. When you read your cover letter back, does it convey how you fit into the operation? Is it going to help them achieve their goals? And when it comes to your resume, the sole purpose of your resume is to get an interview. Almost nobody is going to get hired based on their resume. No, not an employer isn't going to read your resume and say, wow, we're going to hire this guy, throw everybody else out. The goal of the resume is to get an interview, to get into one of the speed dates that I was talking about it for the ExecuSearch. How can you make it stand out amongst all of the other resumes that they're going to receive? Make sure you're using data and statistics whenever possible. Don't be afraid to use a little color. If you're looking at a resume, does it stand out to you? I'm not saying that it has to be all blue and red and gray and that, but there should be some little bit of color in there to make it stand out amongst all of the other resumes that are going to be on somebody's desk or on somebody's computer. Try to integrate links if you can. Have you made any videos? Do you have a portfolio that is electronic? Any presentations that you might have done might be a good thing to attach. Do you have your own personal website? Make sure you include your education. This is a really, really important bullet point. Double and then triple check your spelling. It's amazing how many people miss spelling words, and it just throws it off a little bit. To go back to the cover letter, make sure that your cover letter is addressed to the right person. It shouldn't say to the hiring committee. It should say to whoever it is that posted the job. So if Mrs. Smith is the one that posted the job, it should say, Dear Mrs. Smith. You can add "and hiring committee" if you want to, but it should be addressed to the person that they asked you to address it to. And then when it comes to references, make sure you stay in contact with them. Make sure that you are telling them, hey, I applied for this position, so that when they get a call about you, they're not surprised by it. It just has to be a text. Hey, I applied for the job at XYZ Country Club. Please tell them something nice about me when they call. And I want to touch on social media because this has already burned one person since I've, again, 2.5 months, and somebody's already been burned by it. The first thing an employer is going to do if they're interested in your resume is they're going to look you up on social media, and make sure all your posts are in line with what a potential employer thinks is appropriate. Make sure your LinkedIn account is accurate and up to date. Be mindful of the derogatory or inflammatory comments that maybe you have made or your friends have made on posts that you have, and try to get rid of those. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and without context, they may be the wrong 1,000 words. A couple things about interview, and then I'm going to wrap up here. So, you've done a great job with your cover letter and your resume. Now you have an interview. The first interview may be over the phone, it may be virtual, it may be in person. It's important to make sure you're prepared for all of those options. Another option that I failed to mention when I was talking about, ExecuSearch or the executive search is another tool that we might use is called Slack. I don't know if anybody has ever done a Slack interview, but basically what happens is you log into a website. The website will show you a question. You will have 2 minutes to kind of formulate your answer, and then you will have 2 minutes to record your answer, and then it will go to the next question. I have done those. It's very difficult to be engaged in those because you're just looking at a screen. You're just looking at the camera. There's nobody there. It's hard enough to do a virtual interview when you can see somebody and you can see their hands moving and all those things. With a Slack interview, it's just you looking into the camera. So make sure you practice. Make sure you're prepared. Have a list of 20 questions that you might be asked, have bullet points for each one of them. And then, whatever question is asked, maybe the one out of those 20, maybe one or two questions have some relevant answers in them. And then you can maybe look those over before you record your 2-minute answer. But just go through it and be prepared. Do your research about the company. Go to their website. Go to their social media. Google search them. Make sure you come up with questions that you have about the company or the position you're applying for. Again, I've already had it a few times where, we get to the end of an interview and, we ask them if they have any questions and they don't have any. That's just that's not a good look. It makes it seem like that person hasn't been prepared at all. So make sure you have a list of questions that you want to ask at the end. And interviews are hard and they take practice. It's hard to replicate the pressure of a real interview. And so, just make sure that you go through and practice, especially this, right? You want to make sure that you're looking at the camera, that you're engaged. This person up at the top, the camera is kind of pointed up to them. That's not a good look. Or the person here has the lighting behind the camera instead of behind the person. And so it just makes it really hard for you to see. You want to be the person that's at that bottom right. You want to make sure that you are displayed in such a way that brings out the best. And I think that I will wrap it up there. I don't know, Derek, if we have any questions or if
we didn't get questions. I'll ask one just to make it to kind of tie it in globally here. Now that you have started to integrate into the national PGA, have you learned any 5-year plans or are there key points or anything that you're hearing on a national level that are things that the career services branch specifically is focused on? Any initiatives? Have you heard of anything from the national level that you're excited about the PGA HQ doing for career advancement? Maybe just wrap us up with a national scope.
Sure. So something that, yes. So great question. Something that that the PGA is going to roll out. I think it's probably going to take until next to the PGA Show 2027. But basically, the biggest overview I can give is, let's say that you're an assistant who wants to become the best in the state, and I'll just use Bill Graham as a name because Bill is so respected amongst golf professionals in Wisconsin. That associate or that assistant is going to be able to look at Bill and all of the things that he's done and have a checklist of all the things that they need to do to become Bill Graham. And so, some of it is a self-assessment. So I'm going to be able to go in and say, I'm a 7 on communication and I'm a 5 on technology and I'm a whatever. And then, we will be able to help that person with the skills that they need to develop to become Bill Graham, which I think is going to be awesome. We're going to be reaching out to some golf professionals in Wisconsin to be a part of a group think tank, I'll call it. I don't know what else to call it, to kind of get that process started. But yeah, it should be amazing.
Oh, we did get one in the chat here.
Okay.
And again, we've got 4 minutes left. So
okay.
We've got a question from Brian Bishop. Jeff, what has been the most surprising question you've heard a club ask in an interview?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've had any really big, I think most of them have been pretty standard. What surprises me is on the other side is that the people haven't been ready to answer those standard questions. Again, if you Google search top 20 questions they're going to ask you in an interview, the vast majority of those questions have been asked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, why did you get into golf, and what is your career aspiration, and what can you do for our club, and like all of those pretty standard. And it's amazing that people you just watch them like flounder a little bit, and maybe some of it's nerves. And I'm not trying to cast shade on a lot of people, but
Mm-hmm. No, cool. Jonathan calls those poker chips, and maybe we'll rephrase the question. Any skill, any poker chip an employee has thrown out on the table that
oh,
the hiring committee has been like, you've been shocked that that was a really weird thing they either loved or hated. Did any
uh,
weird skill help or hurt a candidate badly?
nothing stands out.
Okay.
uh, I'm sure that there's been something, but nothing stands out to me, unfortunately.
Cool. No, all good. Yeah, we're at 56 minutes. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Jeff, obviously, thank you for your time. On behalf of the entire education committee, we're very excited that we got to start the winter seminar sessions with Jeff. We've got 9 more just to tease next week's. It kind of builds on this. It's with a gentleman called Chuck Price, a dear friend of mine, a professional friend. He will be talking about healthy stress and becoming a leader, and all of the things we probably know, but it's nice when somebody like him, who's been the head of Health and Human Services and Child Protective Services, and some of the weird things that he has seen and heard, in the importance of having the right mentality on his police officers or his social service workers, and how those mental qualities and the strength mentally it takes to do that, how that translates to the golf world. So we're very excited for next week. It will build on, again, adding chips to your resume, and we're very excited. So we'll see you all next week. Thank you again, Jeff. I think I've got everybody's attendance, and that's it. You guys can start signing off. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.